Welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be making a kitchen sink in 3D Studio Max. So the first thing we want to do is get an image of our sink, and I have one here. It's in millimeters, so that's 1200 millimeters long, 500 millimeters deep. But the other thing we need to know is what the size of the actual file is. This is a JPEG image, so if we have a look, I'll select my file here, and at the bottom of the screen in Windows Explorer it says 695 by 521. So remember that. So now what we want to do is create a plane, which is what we're going to attach our image to. So if you look on the right hand side here, we have all these different tabs and buttons. Make sure you've clicked on the very first one here, create, which is that sort of yellow sun looking type object. Also make sure we're selected on this round circle here for geometry, and also make sure from this drop down box you selected standard primitives. So from there we'll click on plane, and in our top viewport we'll just left click and hold the button down and drag and then let go. And then what I'm going to do is I've just selected the move tool there. Now I'm going to go back over to this panel over here, and I'm going to select this other tab that says modify. So what we're going to do now is we're going to change these parameters to suit that image size. So let's go back to the image size, 695 521. So I'll change that to 695 to 521. Okay, and now we want to zoom out. We can just use our mouse button, our middle mouse button, and we'll zoom out. Also we can use down the bottom here zoom extents all selected. What you'll notice here too is we have this sort of grid on the screen, and I find that a little distracting. So what I can do is when I'm inside a viewport, left click inside a viewport, if I press the G key on my keyboard I can turn off those grids. So the other thing too, we've got this plane here, and it's been divided up into 4x4. If we go back over to the modify panel, which we should still be on, you can see it's got length segments 4x4. We'll take those down to 1 because we don't need any more than 1. The other thing we want to do is actually rotate this plane so that it'll be horizontal when we import our image onto it. So to do that, up the top here we'll left click on the rotate button, and over here what we want to do is make sure we've got angle snap toggle on. So left click on that as well, and that'll snap. And what we can do is we'll in the top viewport hold down your left mouse button over the yellow line, the yellow circle, and then drag your mouse downwards, and as you can see it's rotating, and you should see an actual degree. There's two different places you can see. You can slightly see it just above where I'm turning, or if you look down the bottom here there's where it says -90 in the Z value. That's also where you can see it turning. We could have also just typed that in, so as you can see it's changing. Okay, so now we can just left click off that now so it's not selected. What we'll need to do as well is at the moment we're in what's called wireframe mode, and we won't be able to see the image in that mode, so we need to left click where it says wireframe, and we'll select on shaded. And you can see we've got a solid green rectangle now. Now what we need to do is apply that texture that we had, or that of that sink to this particular plane. So we can do that by going up to the material editor and click on that. You can just type the M key as well if you wanted to open it. And inside the material editor we'll just select the very first material, and we'll select on diffuse. If you don't have V-Ray installed, just look for something that says diffuse. You might have something that looks more like, we'll just close this. The standard sort of material looks a little bit different to the V-Ray one. These are the standard, and we'll just select standard. And as you can see, your viewport might look more like this one, and we'll select on the little rectangle next to diffuse. and now we'll come up with this other material map browser. Select on standard if it's not already open. Make sure you're just underneath the maps tab, and the very first one we want to select on is bitmap. So select bitmap and then click OK. That can be a little bit slow, the material editor sometimes. Now we want to go to the destination of where our texture is. I've just put mine on a C drive, and I'll select it and click open, and there it is. Now what we want to do is we want to select our plane, and this button here in the material editor, assign material to selection, we left click on that, and as you can see it's gone a different color, but we can't see the image. What we need to do is click on this little checkerboard with a little light globe, and as you can see we now have the texture, which was looking a bit strange for some reason. Just have a look and see what that is. Okay, I've just realized that there's a problem with that particular image. I'm just going to go back in here and reselect this sync, and as you can see it's rotated around the wrong direction. Quick way to fix that, it's back in the material editor. We have this W value. If I change that to 90, it's now been rotated around. In fact, it's upside down, so what we can do is we can change that to -90, and now we have it around the right way. Now you can close your material editor. What we're going to do is we're going to maximize this viewport. So down the bottom right here is this little square and with an arrow. Left click on that, and now we have the full size of our viewport. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start the 3D modeling. So to start the 3D modeling, we'll go back to our create tab, so left click on the create, and we're going to use a plane. And what we're going to do is we're going to left click the point roughly there, and then drag right around, roughly around the size of that bowl. And what we're going to do now is we're going to right click on it, and we're going to go convert to editable poly. So a menu comes up and there's a convert to, and we're going to click the editable poly. Another thing we might want to do so we can see what's going on a little bit better, because it's a bit hard to see, is we'll select our image, and on the, if you look down the bottom here with the Z, it's actually both these planes are sitting on 0 at the moment. If we just make this -10, it's going to be a little bit easier to see. It's always going to be sitting below this particular pink square that we're about to work on. Another thing we can do is we open up material editor again. So left click on the material editor, and what we're going to do is we'll create another standard material. So I'll just get those standard materials. You should already have a standard material. Okay, and we're going to apply it to that new rectangle. And also what we're going to do is we're going to change its opacity. So move that down to maybe around 73, and perhaps we'll change the color. We can see a little bit better to a blue color. And this is going to give us a little bit more ability to see the lines below what we're doing. So I've closed the material editor now. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to first select on, well, I'm not sure if you're actually on that bit yet, we'll go back to it. Select the object, go over to our tab here for Modify tab, and then if we left click on where it says Editable Poly, it now means that we're in editable mode. We can now edit this particular rectangle. So first thing we want to do is we want to create some more edges. So we'll select on Edge, left click, and I'm just going to drag over those two edges, and if you can see they've sort of gone a bit red. So we've got two edges selected, and what we're going to do is we want to create two more edges that are vertical. So what we're going to do is over on the editable tab here, now you might need to scroll down depending on how you've got your window set up. As you can see, you can move these around. There's a button there that says connect. Next to it there's a little square, black square, that we left click on, and as you can see one red line's appeared. What we want is 2, so we'll left click and we have 2, and there's a second option, connect pinch edges. If we push that out, we can sort of push those lines roughly out to roughly where the start of the circle is. Once we've done that, we can left click on the tick, and that's done. Now we want to do it the opposite direction, so we're going to left click and then hold down the left button, mouse button, and drag, and then let go, and then we're going to do the connect button again, and we might be able to move that a little bit more with a pinch, and then once we've done that, we'll click the tick. Okay, now next thing we want to do is we want to edit what are called vertex, or the vertices. So we'll left click on that option, and as you can see, we've got all these little blue dots that pop up. Now if I highlight over one of those, it becomes red, it becomes a hot vertice or a hot grip, and it means that's what we're going to edit. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all 4 corners. So to do that, we can select the first one, and then we can hold down our control key and select or just drag a rectangle over those vertices, and then you can let go of your control key. Now we're going to go back over to our editable window, and we're going to left click on the chamfer box, and in here it says generally by default it says 1mm. We can just left click and then hold it down our left mouse button and drag upwards, and as you can see, it's changing the shape of our rectangle. So we roughly want to get it roughly on that curve of the of this basin, and once we've done that, we'll click on the tick. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and highlight over all those vertices, and as you can see, a little thing comes up here. I'm also in move mode. As you can see, I've got that sort of plus cross sign there, and I'm just going to move those up a little bit. Okay, now next thing we want to do is, you can see that's not a very nice corner there, it's very sharp. What we need to do is we need to add some additional lines so we can create more of these little vertex, and that way we can edit and make a bit more of a curve. The way we do that, going back over to our editable window here, if you scroll down, you should see one that says cut. If we left click on cut and then move our mouse over to the window, as you can see, there's like a little pen and there's a little icon that keeps changing. Now at the moment it's just a sort of a blank square. That means we're not actually highlighted over any vertices or lines. But as you can see, when I highlight over the red vertice, it changes it into a little cross, and that's what we want. So once it's done that, left click, and you can see a line comes out. And what you want to do is you want to left click on the next vertice, and then what you want to do is you want to right click, and then start that again, and left click and left click, right click, left click. We're going to add 2 more. As you can see, this time there's no vertice. There's just it's just going to connect to the line, and you can see the cross changes. So we'll click on that, and we'll do that there, and we'll do that on all 4 sides. So to there, right click, left click, left click, right click, left click, left click, right click, left click, left click, right click, and we'll do the same here. So left click on there. As you can see, each time the icon changes to let you know what you highlighted over. So make sure that you're connecting correctly. Okay, right click. Now we've done all that, make sure you go back over to the editable properties window and left click on cut. So we turn it off. Now what we can do, we're still in the vertice mode. We can highlight over the vertices and just sort of drag them into shape roughly around that curve. They're not too bad on this side. That one's sticking out quite a bit. Now just it doesn't have to be perfect, but get as close as you can. So we're just trying to follow the sort of curve of these corners. And that one's sticking out a bit. There we go. Maybe there. This one here. And there. Okay. Alright, so we've got, this would be basically the base of our sink. We haven't done anything 3D at the moment. This is pretty much just all in a 2D plane. What we're going to do now is we're going to try out forming the shape of the sink. So what we're going to do is we want to select all the way around every single line around this particular sink. The way we can do that is this one called border. Left click on that, and as you can see, it's selected all the lines around there in one go. Now what we want to do is we want to go to scale and uniform this time, and left click on that, and we're going to hold down our shift key on a keyboard, and then we're going to drag, left click and hold down the left mouse button and then drag upwards, and as you can see it's sort of moved outwards, and that looks not bad, so we'll leave that about there. And now we're going to go back to vertice mode, and I might change it back to move, so we can sort of try and form this shape a little bit if we can, or we might take it up to that line. For the demonstration of this video, I'm not going to worry about being too specifically accurate about trying to get exactly as the sink is. This is more for demonstration purposes to sort of help you in your own projects. So, I mean, you can spend as much time as you like with 3D. I'm just going to ignore that inner line. Okay. And you'll sometimes find that when you're doing something, like I'll move some of these vertices around, but then I might find later that I then move them again to make them line up with something else. And what we want to do is see all these vertices here. We want them to all be in the same line. So I'm going to select them all, and the way I did that was I dragged over the top of those ones, and then I hold down my control key and then dragged over those ones. And if we go down to the properties window again, we can click on this thing here where it'll straighten everything up in the X, Y, Z coordinates. So we'll select on X, and as you can see it's moved them all, and now all in a perfectly straight line. We can do the same here with this one, and we'll press the Y key. As you can see, they're perfectly straight, and we can do that here. We'll hold down the control key, select them all, and we'll click on X, and we'll straightened up. And we can do that with these top ones, and we'll click on Y, and you can see it's perfectly straightened up there now, which is great. Okay, so that's that bowl. Might move that slightly there and move this one up. Okay, maybe move this one down. Okay, so that's that. We might do again is we might create the border again. This time we'll hold down the Alt key and drag over those lines. Oops, sorry, what we want to do is select that, go into edge mode, then hold down the control key, and we're going to go back to our scale tool, hold down the left mouse button and drag upwards, and as you can see we've dragged out a bit again. So now we can straighten up these, go back to move, straighten up these tools a little bit. We might just square that off for now, just make it a little bit easier. So that's roughly about right, just about there. And as you can see, these ones need to come back a bit, and these ones here we can move up. Yeah, a big part of 3D is sort of experimenting and trying something, and sometimes things don't work. So here we've got something where it's like, well, what do we sort of do? We might just leave that to there for now. Okay. Now, what we could do is we can create go back to the Create tab. We'll create another plane, and we're going to drag it over here. As you can see, because it's a new object, we need to open up the material editor again. Left click, select on the blue, and then select on some material. And we're going to right click on it, object, go down and convert to poly. Okay, now we want to go into edge mode, select those two edges, click on connect properties, make it 2, and move the pinch so roughly around there. Click OK, and those ones, click on the little connect properties again, and that's not bad. We'll just click on OK. Now we'll go to the vertice mode, select our vertices again by holding down the control key, and we're going to chamfer those. So left click, hold down the left, and just drag it. I'm going to click left click the tick, go back to our cut, and we're going to cut from here to here, right click, cut here to here, right click, cut here to here, right click, cut here to here, right click. So just similar to what we did before, pretty much exactly the same. Now, if anyone's watching this and has any suggestions for things I could do more efficiently, be happy to hear it. I certainly wouldn't say I'm an expert in any way. Okay, so we'll left click on cut again to turn that off, and we want to move these vertices roughly in the shape. Oop. So, as I said, they're not perfect, but it's just for demonstration purposes, so you can get an idea, and you can spend as much time as you like doing your own projects. Okay, almost there. Okay, it's not perfect. Well, might move that over a little bit. These two. There we go, that's a bit better. Okay, so we've got that. One thing we're going to do as well is, you see up the top here it says shaded. We left click on that, and we want to turn on edge faces. It gives us an idea about the other faces of the object that's not selected, so it can try and help us join up things a little bit better in the future. So we'll select this object, we're going to select on border, we're going to select on select the uniform scale, we're going to hold down our shift key, and then we're going to hold down the left mouse button and drag out. So it's roughly about there. Okay, now what we want to do is go back to vertice mode, click on move, and we can just roughly move these into place. So we'll get all this lined up a bit better a bit later on. Okay. One thing we didn't do, sorry, I've jumped a bit ahead there. We might move this one over here, and this one down here. That's what I mean by 3D. Sometimes you make a little bit of a mistake. Just need to move things around a bit. So I might move that over there. Okay. So what we did on the last time, we actually moved another ring out. So we want to sort of do the same thing on this. Again, we can just select those, go down here and select on, I think X. Oh, sorry, wrong one. I made a mistake, so the way I can get out of a mistake is hold down the control key and press Z, and we'll click on Y. And those are aligned. Actually, I'll click on Y with all those, and we can move them up. What we can do is too with all these ones, we can select all these and click on X. So they're all aligned now, which is perfect. And move that up there. And move these ones out to here. That's sort of about right. So we're just sort of tracing around the lines really using these vertices. Oop. And I think what have we done there? Yeah, okay. We'll leave it there for now, and I might select all those and make them click on X, so they're perfectly straight by each other. And what we can do now is select on edge mode, and I'm going to hold down the control key and left click these, and now I'm going to hold down the shift key. I'm going to drag up. I'll drag roughly up to there, and what I'm going to select the vertex key, and I'm going to drag all these this way. Okay, so I might select those and make them Y so they're straight. Okay, and as you can see, we're sort of starting to take shape here a bit. What we're going to do again is we're going to select edge mode again. Actually, what we want to do is straighten up these vertices first. So select that, and we want them to be on the Y. So select that, hold down control key, left click, and I'm going to hold down shift key, hold down the left mouse button and drag downwards. Okay. So we've got that. What we might do is do the same things. Select these vertices. I might just drag those right out to over here actually. And select that. And we're going to make them all Y. Oops, sorry, Control Z again, X. And you can see I've left one down here because I wanted to join these up properly. So I'm going to select that one edge, hold down the shift key and drag down. And as you can see, we've got a gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, left click on that edge, hold down control, left click on this edge, and then over in our properties window there's a button here that says bridge, and it filled the gap. So we've got those two objects. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move this slightly away, just over so slightly so they're not touching. And now what we're going to do is we're going to click on attach, and then we're going to left click on that. And now if I right click, I'll just select off the side here and then select it, they're all one object. So what we can do, there's two ways we can go about joining these at this intersection here. We can do what we did before and select the objects and bridge them, such as I'm doing, which works quite well usually. We're getting a problem here for some reason. There we go, it wasn't selected. Or you can actually, when you're in vertex mode, you can actually weld the vertices together, which is another way to do it. I find either method works well depending on what you're doing. We do have a bit of a problem here, as we've not got, there we go, yeah we do, we've got a bit of a gap there, so we'll deal with that in a sec. So a bridge there. As you can see, we have one line here, one line here, one line here, one line here, and that's not ideal because there'd be a five-sided shape. We could do it technically, but it's always best to work in four-sided shapes if you can. So what I'm going to do is I've selected that side there. I'm going to hold down my shift key and I'm going to drag it. Now, what we need to be aware of here is we have two vertices, which is not what we want. So what we can do is we can weld those together. So we go over to the properties window, and it's going to ask us for the threshold. If I just hold down the left mouse button and push upwards, as you can see it's welded together, and then I can just click OK. Now what we can do is go back to edge mode, select that edge, hold down control, select the other edge, and then bridge. And now we have a nice, neat sort of mesh that's all put together. Another thing we can do is, while we're in edge mode, is select the lines, all those lines, go to connect, change it down to 1, we'll change this to 0, and we'll select and click OK. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag that roughly over to that line there. As you can see, it's not perfectly straight, so we're going to select all the vertices by being in vertice mode, and we're going to click on Y. Oops, I've done it again, mistake, Control Z, X. Now they're all straightened up. And what we can do now with that curve is we can select all these lines and then click on ring. As you can see, it's selected a ring all the way around there, and we can click on connect. This time we can drag the line up to there, and we click on OK, and it says create a new line all the way around. There's a couple of different ways we could go about doing that. You know, it depends on how messy you want to get your mesh. I'm just sort of trying to give you basics right now rather than getting too complicated into things. Sort of more of a beginner's course. But one thing we could do is, if we remember, if we went back over to here to the cut tool, we could actually cut. And as you can see, we can cut to there, and we've got this mesh. Oops, I've still got the cut tool on, want to turn that off, and we can move that around. And what we could do is we could cut that to there, to there, and turn off cut, and we can move that around. Now, as I said, it's not ideal the way I've done that, because we've got triangles, and it's best to try and avoid the triangular shapes if you can. There is different ways to go about doing that, just doing it for sort of quick sort of effect, sort of see how you can do that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to select our bowls. So I'm in the polygon mode. As you can see, I've selected the polygon, I've selected the middle one. I'm going to hold down control and select the other middle one, and now I'm going to click on grow, and that's selected all inside our bowl. Now I'm going to go down here, and we're going to maximize our viewport toggle. We're going to zoom in to this viewport here, to our perspective, and now we're going to go to extrude. We're going to click the little square next to it. Now it says extruding upwards. Now we can put a negative number in there if we want, so I don't know, negative 300 perhaps. And we can't see it. That looks. We can see it in the other viewports. It's quite deep. It's way too much. Perhaps we'll put negative 120. Oops, we've lost selecting. Hang on a moment. So negative 120. Having a bit of trouble here with my keyboard. So negative 120. Okay, and then we can click the tick. As you can see in the viewport, side viewport, where it's come down, and we've still got those mesh select, so we can actually drag that up and down if we wanted to. So we're not restricted. So what we might do is we're going to click on the editable poly word, so we're out of that, and we're just going to drag up that sync. We've also got here, you see it says realistic. I'm going to just change that, left click on it, and change that to shaded, so it gives a bit more of an idea. So you can see that our bowl is sort of taking shape a little bit. Now we're going to go back to this viewport, so click on it and we'll go to maximize viewport, and we're going to go back to polygon mode. Now if I select the first poly and then hold down shift, select the one next to it, it selects all the polygons around the side, except for that one for some reason. So I'm having a bit of trouble with that one, but we'll why that is I'm not 100% certain. Just a minute. No, we seem to be having a bit of trouble with that one. I'm not sure why. Okay, won't worry about that right now. Now if I hold down Alt and select a polygon, it deselects it. I think we haven't probably got enough. Oh, actually what we'll do is we'll select all of these and we'll hold down Control and select all that, Control and all that, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to Extrude again, but this time we're going to type in 5, so it's going to go upwards 5 mil. Click OK. So we go back to our viewport, we can see that it's gone up a bit, and we've got that little bit of a drop down in there. Okay, now you might think that it looks a bit angular, our sink, which it does. What we can do is, there are things in 3D Studio Max called modifiers. What I'm going to do is, as well, before we do that, is I'm going to go to Material Editor and click on our blue coloured material, and I'm going to change the opacity back to 100 so we can see the sink totally. And what we're going to do is, so we're going to select the object. We're going to make sure we're in this editor mode with that little blue sort of spring looking thing, like a slinky. And you can see it says modifier list. Now if we left click on the arrow next to it, there's a big drop down menu that comes up. And what we want to do is we want to hold the left mouse button down to drag down along the toolbar, and we're going to select on Mesh Smooth. And then the default's usually Nerms. We'll change it to Classic. And as you can see, we've got a bit of a, if I click on that, you can see it's sort of got a bit of curve to it now. In some cases, a bit too much. So the way we can get around those extreme curves, actually we might go back to Nerms and see what that looks like. That looks a little bit better, but still not ideal. So we'll select it, and we'll go back to Editable Poly. And what we're going to do is we're going to create, we're going to select around the perimeter of our sink. So what we'll do is we're going to select that inside edge and click on Ring. And as you can see, it's selected all the lines around the inner part there. We're going to connect the line. So left click on there. As you can see, a line's appeared. And we can use this this bottom selector here to move that down a bit. So what we want to do is move that roughly around there. Doesn't have to be too accurate. Basically what happens is when we apply the Mesh Smooth modifier, this works as a sharp line so that the little radius that's in the corners there is not as wide or as big, so it's a lot smaller. So once we've done that, we can click the tick, and we want to do it again for all these bottom ones here too, so we might need to select those individually. Also to move around in your viewport, down the bottom here there's a little button that says Orbit Subobject, and you left click on that, we're able to use our left mouse button to move around. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to click back on our Move tool, hold down the Control key and select the rest of these lines. And now we're going to go back to the Connect Properties settings, and we're going to move that back so it's close to the edge as well. So roughly around the same. You can zoom in using our middle mouse button, and then we click tick, OK. And then we'll just left click on Editable Poly, and we click on Mesh Smooth. Actually, we'll change that back to Classic. You can see that it's not as dramatic and as you can see, it's still quite a big curve there. So we can go back to editable poly, select on edge, select the edge, click on loop. As you can see, it selected all the edges around the loop there. Actually, in fact, we don't want to do that. What we're going to do, sorry, is select on these again, the internal edges. We're going to click on ring this time again. Go back to connect, and you can see we've got a line up near the edge. That looks pretty good. We'll click OK, and here again we'll click on ring, and we'll go around. We want to click on connect, and again that's looking pretty close to the edge. We can maybe move that back a little bit. Click OK, click on editable poly, and click on mesh smooth. As you can see, the curve's not as sharp now. As you compare it to between the two bowls, this was much more of a small radius compared to that, where that's quite a significant fold, which is not what it would be like in reality. Okay, so what we can do is go back to editable poly, and we'll do the same to this bowl. So we'll select an edge, click on ring, and click on the connect settings. That looks pretty good. Click OK, click on this line, click on ring, and click on the connect settings, and we might want to move that up a little bit, and click tick, and we'll click on that again, a ring, click on settings, and we want to go down towards the bottom this time, so we can just drag that down, click the tick, and what we want to do is select all these lines by holding the control key. Make sure you just select those corner ones, click on connect, and we want to move that out. So as I said, you can spend as much time as you like being accurate about this. Now we're going to go back to mesh smooth, and as you can see, it's not as tight. Okay, over here we've got some funny things going on, and that was what I was talking about earlier about trying to avoid triangles, because things like that can look a bit funny sometimes. What we're going to do is go back to editable mode. We're going to select on that, click on ring, we'll have a look around, see if it's selected everything. It looks like it has. Okay, that's good. Click on our connect settings. We're going to move it the other direction. Okay, click OK. We might do that again. Click on ring, click on connect, and move that down so it's not as sharp. There we go. Alright, that's looking a little bit better. Still a bit of a messy mesh. We'll change that maybe to NURMS. It still looks a bit messy. Quad, yeah, it's not much better, so I can live with that for now, just for this tutorial purposes. Now, also what you're going to realize is that we're going to need to have a circle for our waste, where the water goes down. What we can do is we'll go back to maximize the menus, the viewports, and we're going to maximize this viewport. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on the create button. This time we're going to go to one called shapes, and we're going to click on circle, and we're just going to drag a circle. Now I've just dragged one. You can't really see it because this sink is sitting in front of it. So I did actually draw something there. What we're going to do is, if I just, in the Z coordinate there, we just type in perhaps 300. You can see the circle. So what we can do is we can scale, using the scale tool, we can just scale that down to roughly whatever size you like. You can, as I said, you can be as accurate as you like. Place one there, hold down the shift key, hold down the left mouse button on that red arrow, and we'll drag one over there and let go, and we'll say we'll copy. So click OK, make sure copy selected, and we will just move it to out there. And what we want to do is right click on there, convert to editable spline, select the other one, right click, convert to editable spline, and what we want to do is attach. So click on attach, and then select the other circle, and then right click. So now both those are attached together. So the way we can cheat a little bit with this mesh is we'll right click our viewport thing so we're maximized. I'm going to scroll around. Okay, and we can probably just delete this viewport or this view thing here if you want now, this drawing. Or what we can do is we can actually right click on it too, and just when the menu pops up we could just click on hide selection, so it makes it a bit easier to see. So now we can see those circles floating in the air. So what we want to do is select our sink. We want to go to the create tab again and click on geometry. On the drop down menu we want to click on compound objects and then click on shape merge. Okay, so make sure that your sink was selected first and then you click on shape merge. Now it asks us to pick a shape, so we pick a shape and we pick the circles, and then we can right click, and now those circles have been embedded into that particular mesh. If we go down to the Modify tab, it says shape merge. What we're going to do is we're going to right click on the sink when it's selected, go to convert to editable poly, select the polygon mode, and you can see it's automatically highlighted those two polygons, and then we can click on the delete key, and there we have a very basic sink. So what we'll do is we can also add for the drainage on the sink, we can also add something for that. There's a couple of ways we could do that. I think what we might do is, well, what first thing we'll do is we want to right click somewhere on the window there somewhere and click on unhide all, so it comes back. Now go back to our material editor, click on our blue material, and we change the opacity back down to 49 or maybe a little bit higher, 72 or something. We're going to go to this top viewport. We're going to click on maximize the viewport button, and as you can see we've got the these lines here which are the part of the draining board. So one way we could do it is, well, we could actually just use extended primitives. We could actually click on chamfer box and then drag a chamfer box over there, and so we've got parameters there, roughly whatever, and we can add a fillet, and as you can see there's a bit of a round fillet to there. I've just got out of that mode. We'll go back to modify and we can play around with the fillet a little bit, and that's about as much fillet as we can get, I think. So that's not bad. Okay, and we convert that to an editable poly, and then we can hold down the shift key and make sure we're in the move command for make sure that's selected. So hold down the shift key and we can move that up, and then click OK for copy. Move up again. Let's move a few over. You could use the array command for this too, which I'm not going to talk about in this. And let's move those down a little bit. You can see they're not perfectly fit. I could have spent a bit more time on getting those to match more perfectly. So let's keep on dragging these down to the copy. Okay, almost there. And the last one. Okay, most of them are pretty okay. Some of them here, what we'll do is just going to move that. We're going to just hide that. Actually, we might select the sink, and we're going to right click and select the drawing, and we're going to right click and just say hide selection for a moment. So you can see the spacing's a little bit off. And actually what we might do, what we do need actually, that's, we're going to actually unhide all, and sorry, we're just going to select the sink and we're going to hide that. Okay, So now that's with that editable poly, we can go into vertice mode, and we can just sort of drag that back. So as I said, it's not perfect. I've done this very quickly, but I think you get the idea about how you could sort of go about playing around with all this. So yeah, as I said, it's a very basic tutorial, just to give you a rough idea about doing things. And this one here we can just drag to there, and this one's dragged here. And what we can do is, well, I might just delete that background now. We can delete these circles. I'm going to select all that, go to materials, select on the blue thing, and then we're going to right click somewhere on there and click on unhide all. Okay, and now whilst we've still got all those little drainage bar selected, we can go up to the group menu and then select on group. It asks us for a name. I'm just going to click OK for now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get out of that viewport, and we're going to drag up and zoom in, drag up these bars. So it should be about right. We can make some fine adjustments with the Z coordinate here, as you can see, and it might be a bit easier if we go back to the material and change that to full opacity. So as you can see, that's sinking down a little bit. So we've got our basic, I was going to render that. It's our basic sink. So hopefully you found this tutorial helpful. So you could spend as much time as you like on doing something like that, but hopefully it gives you a bit of an idea about a way to maybe approach doing your own project. So love to hear any comments you have. I hope you found it helpful. Thanks.